hadn't seen it until tonight.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing!
Well, thank you, and thank you for those who saw it again. Thank you.
A lot of them put up their hands when I asked how many of them cried at America's monologue.
I always cry at the end moment with Barbie and Ruth. That's the ugly crying moment for me.
There's a lot of ugly crying moments. So Margot, I would like to start with you, and also congratulations on all the nominations for all of you. Margot, you were the person that bought the rights to Barbie, and I'm just so curious, what was the meeting where you, with your production company Lucky Chap, sat down and said, this is the thing that we should do?
It was about 5.5 years ago, maybe even 6 years ago now, and we sat down with Enon, the real-life head of Mattel, who is nothing like Will Ferrell, actually. He actually is a lot like the Terminator. And he just reminds me of the Terminator so much, and he's just like, he just crushes everything. It's amazing. So he was very on board with kind of trusting us to make the movie, you know, kind of in a wonderful way. He was like, this is your domain, so you tell us. I'm like, I think it should be go. I think it needs to be like this. I think it has to be kind of like not avoiding some of the complicated things about Barbie. You know, we're pretty honest in that first initial meeting about what our approach would be. But more than anything, we kind of wanted to reassure him too that, you know, there's a 60+ year legacy of this brand, and we would be honoring that. And, you know, it's like, it was all going to be done with love, and executed at the highest level with the best people that this industry has. You know, we have the most incredible HODs on this film. Rodrigo Prieto, our cinematographer, and Sarah Groom. I mean, every single person who worked on this film, and of course our cast, is just the very top. So yes, in that initial meeting, I didn't know exactly what this was going to be, because that's the genius of Greta and Noah. I just knew what the intention was and what I thought the potential of it could be.
I'm really curious, was there ever a meeting with Mattel where you had to kind of fess up to what you were really going to do? And what did they say about it?
We had so many meetings. If you could just be a fly on the wall for some of the meetings we had, it was... Because of course the script was bonkers, and if you think about how like kind of weird it is what you just saw, like imagine that on the page and everyone didn't know what it was going to be to begin with. So yeah, there were a lot of meetings where we had to really get them comfortable with being very, very uncomfortable, and they were amazing about it.
And what kind of feedback did they give you after seeing it? Were they delighted? They had to be, surely. I mean, it's the highest grossing movie globally last year, so...
It's a process, obviously, an edit process, and it transforms and evolves all the time. But it seems, sitting on this side of the movie, that it's obvious that this was going to work out, but even up until a week before this released, everyone was kind of white-knuckling it. Everyone, like, no one, you just don't know if it's going to work or not. You don't know if it's going to hit or not. You don't know how people are going to respond. And thank God it did. And most of you believes that it's going to, but there's a big part of you that is worried that it won't. And, you know, the money people especially are probably worrying about that far more than even I am. So, no, I mean, everyone was excited when they saw it, but also terrified. And you know, it wasn't until it was literally out in the world and doing what it ended up doing that everyone suddenly was like, well, of course a Barbie movie worked out. It's like, yeah, no, we didn't know that at the time.
I did hear that you hid in a theatre bathroom to listen to what people were saying about the film.
Yeah, that could have gone very badly too. It didn't. But it was fascinating, and I would go around to theatres on weekends and just watch people coming out and kind of like listen to what they were saying and see who, just, I mean, it was an amazing experience. And I had this brilliant experience. I was in a pub in the middle of nowhere in Scotland, and I listened for about 30 minutes to a group of guys on a bachelor party discussing the Barbie movie, not knowing that I was sitting 2 feet away from them. And it was just truly fascinating. And there was, you know, people who at the table who refused to see the Barbie movie. There were people, you know, one guy was like, dude, it's a cultural moment. Don't you want to be a part of culture? And the other guy was like, I'll never see it. By the end, he did want to see it. I mean, it was a whole thing. And really, people's reactions to the movie has been the biggest reward of this entire experience, whether it's having a moment like that, or whether it's listening in the bathrooms, or whether it's seeing what people are writing online, or even just seeing like how much pink I can see in this room right now. It's just, those moments are what makes it, it's what makes it so. I've never been a part of something like this, and I probably not like this. Like I've done comic book stuff, and and that gets a big reaction. But this felt very different. It still feels very different, and I can't think of a time when, a movie's kind of had this effect on culture, and it's amazing to be kind of in the eye of the storm.
I hope you went up to those guys in Scotland and said hi.
I wasn't going to, and then I did. I at the last minute, as I was walking out, I went to the table and I was like, "Thank you for seeing the Barbie movie." It was very funny. They lost it. It took a full minute for them to realize, and I was practically out the door, and then they were like, "Oh!"
So, Ryan, I was watching an interview that you gave previously where you said, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, forgive me. You said something about having read the script and realised this was going to be really hard. And you said something like, how do you play a 70-year-old crotchless doll? Is that correct? So I am curious, how did you set about, what are you basing this on? Like, what do you think, what's going through your head when you're like, how am I figuring out Ken? And what were the conversations you had with Greta and Noah about that?
Well, even though it's true, there are no books you can read, no biographies on Ken, no documentaries, there's really nothing. We did have this brilliant script that was just so layered, so deeply thought out. It was just so unexpectedly philosophical. It was like, I think Greta does she have a degree in philosophy?
I don't know.
She should. But it's almost like, I don't know, is it like Descartes who said, I think, therefore I am? But it's like she was going, okay, she took it one step further and she was like, I can, therefore I beach. But there was this layer to the humor where it was like she deeply understood how she could use comedy to facilitate a more serious conversation. And so she started it, there was no one ever had the thought, I wonder what Ken thinks. And if anyone did, they let it go very quickly because it seemed like a waste of time. But she just said, no, I'm going to dig really, really deep into this. And, she found such interesting and beautiful things. So that was there, that work had been done. And then it just sort of became like sort of trying to, we started a kind of, because she was in London, a kind of a text exchange really that was sort of just photos, and it ended up looking like what I imagined Ken's Instagram would look like. He had one that was just all these kind of weird inspo. It's sort of like it's almost like Battleship, where you're kind of trying to guess like where the other person is, and I would send like a picture of like the Barbarian Brothers from like a muscle fitness magazine from the 90s that I remembered as a kid. She would be like, okay, but maybe more like this, and then she would send like a picture of like that guy from the Warriors, And then I'd be like, all right, well, what about this? And I'd send the Ultimate Warrior from the WWF, and she'd be like, yeah, but maybe it's a bit more like this, and then she'd send that guy from Xanadu. And it's the same guy, by the way, and I was like, okay, I'm getting a connection. There's a theme here, and it has to do with that actor. He's the Rosetta Stone. But anyway, and then she would send a horse lamp or a bunch of spoon sculptures, and she'd be like this. I just felt so honored that she trusted me to understand what like a wall of spoons might mean for this character.
What did it mean?
Just, you know, if you don't know, you don't know. Sorry. It's pretty obvious. Anyway, it was a very unique process, and we got to this, you know, we got there.
I will say though that the portrayal of Ken it's so nuanced, it's hilarious, but also so sad, because it's not, of course, only women that live within these expectations and stereotypes, and his self-esteem is so paper thin because of that. And I feel like this is why the global appeal. It's not just for women, it's for everybody, because I feel like so little is said to sympathize with that exact scenario of stereotypical stuff.
Yeah, when we were filming the I'm Just Ken musical number, I remember going behind a crew guy, he didn't know I was there, and he was like, I'm just Dave. And I was like, this is something going on here. And even Mark Ronson sent me recently, like his friends sent him, like her son is watching that song on a loop now because it's making him feel better about getting dumped. Because he's like, well, if Ken gets dumped, you know, and it makes me realize that like, it's not me, it's like, she's just on a different journey. Cool.
America, of course, you and I have talked about this before, this amazing monologue. Every time I watch it, it gets me, and I've seen it many times. I know that Margot has told me that she cried every time you did it on set. I believe everyone was crying at one time or another. How did you and Greta discuss that ahead of time, and how did you build on it? And tell me how it felt actually shooting it. I think it was towards the end of the shoot, right?
Yeah, we shot it really towards the end, like months after we had begun shooting. It was, you know, we never really talked about the monologue separate from Gloria's entire journey, really. And similarly, there was a lot of texting going back and forth, and it was, sometimes it was like poetry, or it was an article, or it was an episode of something, or an op-ed about womanhood. And we just kind of, for months, went back and forth sharing, you know, where we saw the essence of Gloria's journey, which of course is very much encapsulated in that monologue, just bubbling up in the culture, you know. And so by the time we got around to shooting it at the end of the shoot, I mean, I felt so ripe and ready. And you know, the truth is like, I just spent 40 years being a woman in the world. Like, that's mostly how I prepared for that monologue. And Greta and I, you know, we had a lot in common in terms of like both being moms and having careers and being artists. And so we it felt like sleepover bonding on a really fundamental level. And it was just, you know, I think that the words were just true. And when I read the words on the page, it just hit me as truth. And I felt like my job was just not to get in the way of what was true, you know. And I think that's what resonates, not just with women, with people of all genders who feel like seen and reflected in the, like you said, you know, Ken and all kinds of people are also damaged by the same systems, right? And Greta had said that she looked around and the guys on the crew were sort of wiping away tears, and they had their own either version of their own, or like a relationship or a witnessing of someone they loved having that experience, you know. So I just feel like it was such a gift that Greta and Noah, but I suspect probably really Greta, put on the page. And you know, yeah, we connected to it as much as we could personally, but at the end of the day, it was just about like letting the simple truth come through.
Were you a Barbie owning girl as a kid?
No, I was not at all. I mean, we like couldn't afford Barbies growing up. My cousin had Barbies that I kind of played with at her house, but you know, I had never in my wildest dreams desired to be a part of a Barbie movie, you know. And when the script came my way, what was so compelling was Margot's involvement and Greta's involvement, and saying, okay, here are two incredibly talented, intelligent, deep artistic women. Why are they doing this, and what are they going to do with it? And once you read that script, it was just unbelievable. I mean, I felt giddy with excitement, just as a woman in the world, that this was the Barbie movie no one asked for, but that we were going to get, you know? And I had no investment in Barbie whatsoever. And by the end of reading the script, I was in. I said to Mark Ronson very boldly when he came to Barbie dance rehearsal, I said to him, I think there's going to be a before Barbie and an after Barbie, like in this industry, in terms of the permission that people feel in storytelling and what's possible. And that's how I felt when I first read the script. Like, my God, what a masterpiece, what a gift that Greta and Noah gave us.
It's definitely. You're right. I think it's definitely set a precedent and will change the kinds of films that will get financed going forward, and that's an amazing thing. Thanks to you, Margot. I have to say, I think I would have absolutely loved to have had a shame Barbie or a cellulite Barbie as a kid, and I'm hoping that that becomes a thing. But like Kate's character, Weird Barbie, all my Barbies had no hair and had their legs at weird unnatural angles. So tell us about coming to the role of Weird Barbie. Did you immediately go, this is going to be amazing? What was the process?
I feel nervous. This is my first SAG screening, and being in a room full of peers, why don't you tell me? What was the question? No, I heard my agent called and was like, there's a role in the Barbie movie. And I was like, pour moi? He was like, it's called Weird Barbie. And I was like, I read it and I was like, I don't have to change a line. Usually I feel compelled to and want to, put my own spin on the dialogue and stuff, and I was like, wow, this is what I would write, only it's 10,000 times better, and I don't have to, I'll just say exactly what this is. Okay. So that was amazing. And then my biggest thing became what are the clothes? Because we know the hair of these Barbies, that's easy, but they're always naked. The clothes have been flushed in the toilet and burned and buried with the dog, and what will I wear? And that was the funnest part of creating the character, as it were, working with the amazing costume designer and working on the hair and the makeup was such a fun journey. Yeah. So that.
You know what I love is that the dog that poops was a real thing. And it was discontinued because the magnets didn't work on the poop. And it was like a danger to children. But I absolutely love that that's a real thing.
Yeah, there was a lot of
freaky, weird stuff and real stuff. And we told the truth. All we did was have to tell the truth. And I just was so, it's so amazing to be part of something like this with, it's crazy. But, like, I specifically loved Weird Barbie because I feel like girls that age who are doing that to their dolls are just trying to be themselves and express what they feel inside. And how they don't feel like this, they feel like and I wanted to speak to them.
Can I just clear up a little thing that wasn't your actual leg at that angle?
I can't clear that up for you. That will remain a mystery. No, it went my leg.
I can do that. I heard that there were holes in the scenery in which to put your actual leg at the same time.
Yes.
Which
So
is
the
ingenious.
stance was not, it was like, listen.
Rhea, I adore your character in this movie. It's amazing.
I adore her too. I have to say, I think she's an amazing woman, Ruth Handler, who I play. Some girls came up to me the other day on the street. Oh, you're Barbie's mother. Oh my God. How does it feel to be Barbie's mother? It feels really good. Yeah. The words that Greta wrote, Greta and Noah, were just, there was no way to screw them up. They were just brilliant. And they had so much emotion just in it. It felt like I didn't have to do anything, but just be there. Just be. Most of my work, almost all of my work was with Margot, and it was just a complete joy to be with her, who does not have a false note either. She is just, she's just right there always, and I feel like that's true of all your work, because I'm a huge fan. I've told you.